Hey there guys, today I'm back to talk about the books that I've read and finished in March. So this month was a little bit better than my last month. As you know, in February I was traveling quite a bit, so I wasn't reading that much. But also my cat died at the end of February, so the beginning of March really was a very slow month for me with everything, but also with reading, because I was grieving and stuff, and I still am a little bit. But I still have finished a couple of books and I wanted to mention them and tell you all about them. Now, the first book I finished this last month was this book by Khaled Hosseini. In English, this is called Sea Prayer. It's a very, very tiny book and this is fully illustrated. This is kind of like a letter from a man who tries to save his family by fleeing Syria. And so this is, for me personally, feels a little bit late because this just recently came out, I think like last year or something. But it still is, very interesting and horrifying topic, I think. And this was inspired by one of the children who died on the way through the Mediterranean Sea. And so I thought this would make me cry quite a bit, but actually it didn't really. So I think I would have cried a lot more if I've just read like a newspaper article about this thing and not this fictionalized letter. But still, it is impressive. I think I gave it like a 3.5 stars. It didn't change my mind or anything. I didn't really feel the feels that I wanted to with this book, but it is a very beautiful book. And if you like the kind of art style and this theme is interesting to you, then you should definitely take a look at this. Then the next book I finished was Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, which is the book that I took with me on my holiday, but I actually didn't get around to reading any of it. So I've read this after my holiday, which was kind of like a weird timing to do this because this is a lot about traveling, about discovering, countries that you haven't known before, which here is Singapore, because this is about an American couple, but the man and the couple, he didn't tell his girlfriend that he's from a very rich family in Singapore, and he invites her over for the summer to meet some of his friends and his family, and obviously she doesn't really know what she's getting into, and all the drama ensues because obviously the family thinks that she's not good enough, that she's just there for his money, and she has no idea what's happening. So this I did enjoy, but I didn't absolutely love it, to be honest. I think I gave this 4 stars. No, 3.5 stars. I've heard that the sequels to this are not as interesting, so I decided to not continue on with the series. I really liked that you get little glimpses of the, the culture and stuff like that, because there's a lot of words used that are Cantonese or whatever. There's multiple languages, I think, that are mentioned in here, and you also get a feel for the social strata, the people that are higher up and what they're thinking about other people and stuff like that. And I think this is very interesting in that perspective, but this romance kind of thing really isn't my thing. And also I found it so frustrating. If I would have been Rachel, I think that's what the girl's called, I would have left immediately and let them all screw themselves, to be honest. I wouldn't have put up with it for any guy, so I found this to be a frustrating read that really triggered my wish to be somewhere else, because I love traveling, and just being back home was, not a good time. I had just lost my cat, which basically is the only reason for me to return home after vacation. So I was in a really bad place, and reading this didn't really help. So overall, this was okay, but not the kind of book that is for me. I could say so many interesting things about this, but I feel like I've forgotten a lot of it already. But there were some interesting themes that are explored, because we're not only looking at the relationship of Rachel and her boyfriend, but also at other relationships as well that are within this family. The next book I finished was an audiobook, and it was called Vacations from Hell, which has, I think, 5 short stories. One is Cassandra Clare, one is Libba Bray, and Maureen Johnson did one, I think I forgot the other two, but overall I think this collection was really good. I gave it 4 stars. It was super entertaining. It's all short stories about a vacation that has some kind of supernatural or horror twist to it, and it starts off kind of slower. Like the first stories I felt like were not as good, but the last 3 stories were like really good and I really enjoyed them. And I think it's just, you know, whatever you prefer. Like if you like more like fluffy supernatural stories, you enjoy some stories, and if you like more like darker, more creative stories, you'll enjoy the other ones. So I think whatever you like, you're gonna find something in this collection. I really liked it, and it made me interested to read more from these authors, because apart from Cassandra Clare, I had not read any of those, I think. The next book I finished was Lovely War, and this book was great. This is by Julie Berry, who also wrote All the Truth That's in Me, which is a book that absolutely surprised me. It was my favorite book of the year that I've read it in for the first time. So when I saw that Julie Berry was coming out with a new story, which was also historical fiction, which is something I like, but it also had to do with gods, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna pre-order this. So this just recently came out, and I've seen nobody mention it, which I think is not good, because this book is really cool. Now, we have 2 storylines, but one is the dominant one. We have a storyline in the Second World War where 2 people walk into a motel or something like that, and they're like stunningly beautiful. Turns out that these 2 people are Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and Ares, the god of war. And they're kind of having an affair, but when they get to their room, Hephaestus turns up, which is the husband of Aphrodite. Obviously, he's not happy, and so she tries to tell those men something about love and the gods, and she wants to show them what true love is. So she starts telling them a story which is set in the First World War, and it follows 4 different people. Now, let me get this straight. We have Hazel, who is playing the piano quite well, and she wants to really study playing the piano and be good at it and stuff like that. She lives in England, and yeah, very calm life so far. We have James, which is a soldier who's soon to leave for Europe to fight in the First World War, and he likes architecture. He wants to be an architect one day. Then we have Aubrey, who is a black character, and he, in the beginning of his storyline, is still in the US, but he joins a black regiment that leaves for the First World War as well, and he also is in a band, and I think he can play the piano, but also other instruments. I'm not quite sure about that right now. And then we have Colette, and Colette is a singer. She's a Belgian girl who lost her complete family and leaves Belgium because it's invaded by the Germans, and goes to France. So basically all of our characters at one point are in France, and that's kind of where the connection lies. And I love this book so much. It is about love, Lovely War, but also it's about so much more. There's like so many interesting topics, and in the back you get this whole little bit of pages where the author tells you everything about the historical events and what's real and what's fictionalized. And I thought this was so interesting. There were like so many things in there that I had no idea about, especially about the black soldiers who fought for America, but basically were not, they didn't have, you know, any rights basically. If you want to know, you know, what really happened, you obviously gotta read this book or any other book that deals with that. But yeah, I found this so interesting, and I also love the love stories. Like, there were obviously a lot of themes like meeting and falling in love and then having to depart, which is something that really hits me right now, because I've been, you know, living in a different country than my partner for a couple of months, and that was really hard for me. So imagining your partner or your loved one going to war is like horrifying. Like, that's something I never want to have to live through. So yeah, this book really got to me. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. Am I right? Yes, I did. I have to check my notes. But yes, I absolutely love this book. I think everyone should read it. It's so interesting. The social commentary through the gods is so on point. I love it. I love this book. I think the ending wasn't, you know, the best, but it was okay. And then there's one more book I wanted to mention, which I don't have here because I've already returned it to the library, but that is Moxie. Who wrote that? Jennifer Matthew? Something like that. Moxie is a book about a high school, and basically the girls in that high school who just have enough of the boys who are always, you know, sexist. And so they, or in particular one girl, I forgot her name already because I'm really bad with names, I'm sorry. But this one girl, she starts a zine which she distributes in the toilets of, not the toilets, but the bathrooms of this high school. And she basically starts a little revolution through that, but anonymously. And it's also about, you know, how all those little things that you may think, you know, it's not that important, you don't have to fight because of that, like, you know, boys making dumb jokes in the classroom, how these can all pile up to be something very toxic and very dangerous for girls. There's a lot of stuff happening later on in the book that is much more dramatic than the first couple of things. But also this book is about what you can actually do, and what I liked about it is that those little actions that the girls were planning, they were all peaceful and they were all, you know, not on the same level kind of, you know, it's not like that, how do you call that in English, like an eye for an eye kind of thing, but it's a creative way just to show other girls that you care, basically. You also have a little bit of a romance in there because it is a YA book, but I thought the romance was very cute. And also I liked the whole discussion that later on in the book happens, where it's a little bit about, you know, how do feminists deal with boys. And I really like this because, you know, obviously you can't be a feminist and say all men are bad, and you have to accept that even so some boys might be trying to help, they might not do everything right in the first try. You know, you have to be patient as well, and you can't, you know, just give them up because they made one little mistake or something. I really like that discussion. Also, it deals with the question of how do you deal with girls or women who do not fight with you, in the sense that they don't really see the benefit maybe of a feminist revolution, or they don't think that it's really that bad or anything like that. And I like the kind of discussion showing that these people are not, or these women and girls, they're not bad, but maybe they have, you know, reasons that hold them back. And yeah, overall I thought this was an amazing book, and I would definitely recommend it to everyone who wants to read like a very low-level introductory book about feminism in a fictionalized world in a high school, which is kind of a small setting, but also, you know, I found this book to be really uplifting, and I really felt so much better after finishing it. So that was a great experience. And I'm talking way too much in these videos. So I gave this book as well 4.5 stars. And that was the last book I finished in March, which in hindsight wasn't as bad. I also started one book but did not finish it before the month was over. And that was King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. I'm going to talk about this one in my next wrap-up, as well as my current audiobook, which is The Queens of Innisleer. So if you want to hear about that, be sure to be back next month. Apart from that, I hope you had a great time watching. Leave a like or a nice comment, I always appreciate those. And if you subscribe, I will talk to you soon. Bye!